Yep, getting bitten would be possessed by a superhuman entity. And what really drives these transformed people to become villains? Why not just throw on a cape and fly around the city? If you're more of an Edna person, you can surely drop the cape, but you get the point. Well, doubt no more, because we've listed some of the best supervillain transformations across the Marvel and DC universes with answers to these questions and more. Kickstarting our list is a nostalgic return to the age-old Infinity Stone battles in Asgard. Unlike the Lord of the Rings elves bathed in silvery light, the elves battling the Asgardians are dark creatures born out of the darkness. Nothing like Odin's grim voice to give a gloomy intro. And of course, this doom and gloom race has its own form of super soldiers. By crushing the Kurse stone in their hands, the Dark Elves can turn into a mini version of Ragnarok. Algrim, the lieutenant of the leader of the Dark Elves, Malekith, is the last of the Kurse soldiers. Now, I happen to be a huge fan of villains, but Kurse just got off on the wrong foot. First, he underestimates Loki and abandons him in his cell. Then he goes off to murder the wonderfully wise and kind Frigga. Also, can we all just take a moment to appreciate how Loki calmly reads a book in the middle of the chaos? Now, we all know that it's not nice to fool with Mother Nature, but you know what? I always imagined her as a benevolent spirit, kind of like Tafiti in Moana. But hey, Poison Ivy does say that she had a change of heart, quite literally. Maybe that's why she came out more like the heart-stolen version of Tafiti. Seeing the good-hearted, nerdy scientist transform into a crafty and seductive eco-terrorist is surprising, to say the least. But I'm beginning to think that all the shy and socially awkward assistants have a psychotic and assertive side lurking underneath. Remember Catwoman? Don't you just love how villains pop out in a gust of smoke in old movies and give out their detailed bio, complete with their villainous plans? Despite the 180 change Dr. Pamela Isley took, one thing remained unchanged: her love for her plants and a hatred at the world for harming nature. This shows that deep down, she truly cares for nature. It's the cause she dedicated her life for, and even risked her life in defending her research from her crazy boss.
I want to know why. I needed your powers for the pool. The what? Mutant killer.
Before Deadpool became the adorably annoying hero-ish character, he was a deadly annoying super soldier villain turned zombie soldier. He was part of the Black Ops group Team X, put together by none other than our beloved psychotic and sadistic William Stryker. Back then, he was the perfect soldier, or almost perfect. Some things never change. But Wade Wilson was later killed by Stryker, and his body was used to put extracted mutant DNA into just one body. So in the early 2000s movies, the name Deadpool meant a dead mutant who had other powers pulled up into him. When Weapon 11 walks out to face Wolverine, he's the ultimate weapon of Stryker's making. Wade never seemed to be bothered about the mindless killing ordered by Stryker, but at least he wasn't a soulless zombie carrying out orders. But the most striking change was his silence. Stryker sealed Wade's mouth the first chance he got. Such a humorless spoilsport. Penguin, or Oswald Cobblepot, may have been a deformed baby, but he certainly didn't deserve to be caged, then thrown into the sewers by his own parents. The Penguin's transformation certainly tops the list of villains created because of bad parenting. Being raised with animals in a zoo and being turned to a circus freak is enough to drive anyone crazy. Oswald Cobblepot's slow transformation over the years to the crime boss Penguin was marked by his anger towards the city for the way he was treated. His traumatic past eventually got the better of him, turning him into a bitter and ruthless sociopath. However, given the way he tortured their family cat, he seems to be violent and aggressive from birth, but nothing a loving family couldn't fix. The extent of his childhood trauma is laid bare when he reveals his plans to drown every firstborn son in Gotham in poisoned waters. Talk about PTSD-driven behavior. Seems like the best way to drive a scientist insane is to insult their life's work. But on a separate note, riddle me this: how does Bruce Wayne, being the big-hearted philanthropist, somehow manage to tick off half the population in Gotham, turning them into crazy villains? The Riddler, or Edward Nygma, used to be a brilliant scientist employed by Wayne Enterprises who idolized Bruce Wayne. But imagine the disappointment when your idol turns down a project into which you've been pouring hours of work simply because it could raise too many questions. Even after Edward crossed over to a life of crime, his main focus was on his device. His obsession was still inventing devices and gaining knowledge. The very traits that made him an amazing scientist also made him a formidable villain, and finding out that Batman is his now hated idol did nothing good to the Riddler's sanity. Add to that Jim Carrey's iconic showmanship, which turns every word into a smashing performance. And did you know that while he was learning to twirl the Riddler's cane, he apparently broke over a dozen prop canes and even some of his trailer furniture?
Riddle me this, riddle me that. Who's afraid of the big black bat? Ah!
Since cats have 9 lives, I guess they could spare 1 or 2 to resurrect a drowned girl. The 2004 Catwoman puts a whole new spin on Selina Kyle from the 1992 Batman Returns, but a few elements remain the same. Catwoman is a timid young lady working for a corrupt company, and on finding the company's dirty secrets, she's murdered before being resurrected by cats. But here's where the difference lies. The cat who breathed life into her is actually the Egyptian goddess Bastet, so Patience gets superhuman abilities and actually acts like a cat. As Catwoman goes in search for the reasons of her murder, we see a new side to the personality of the shy artist. Just like the Selina Kyle from the 1992 movie, Patience Phillips has an assertive and confident woman lurking underneath that shy exterior. Given that she was a rather clumsy person before, she's clearly loving the grace and agility her new powers have given her. The movie ends with her stating that she's neither good nor bad, she's in between, and Catwoman walks away as an anti-hero in personality. Another one for the crazy scientists. All signs point that being a scientist in Gotham City is awful for your health and sanity. Actually, Gotham City isn't all too good on anyone's sanity, is it? Back in the day, Dr. Victor Fries was a well-renowned scientist. He was a 2-time Olympic decathlete and was lucky enough to even win the Nobel Prize in molecular biology. His life starts unraveling when his wife contracts a terminal illness. He puts his wife in a cryogenic tank and devotes his life into finding a cure. Just like Black Manta, Mr. Freeze was driven into his villainous role through his love for family. But unlike most villains, he's not looking for vengeance. He's simply a man desperate for a cure to save his beloved wife. His love for his wife plays throughout the movie. The only reason he was pursuing a life of crime was that he needed money to complete his research. Given how he was played by Ivy, it seems that Mr. Freeze was rather gullible. Not so smart when it comes to the matters of the heart, is he?
My name is Freeze. Learn it well, for it's the chilling sound of your doom.
It's not about what I want. It's about what's fair! You thought we could be decent men in an indecent time.
Personally, this is one of the most tragic, yet one of the most logical mental transformations. And of course, Joker was there to push Harvey off the cliff of sanity. All of Two-Face's traits can be traced back to his past. The iconic coin that's his judge and jury used to belong to his father who used to toss a biased coin to decide whether his son would be beaten that day. Harvey finds some form of peace through his love for Rachel, but when Gotham decides to risk her life on account of when the world decides that it's fair for him to be forced to live in a world without his loved one while carrying the guilt of having caused her death, that was the tipping point for Harvey. Try as he might, the city beat him down no matter how much good he tried to do. He was only rewarded with pain. So when the Joker whispered in his ear that chaos is fair, is it any surprise that his agony-wrought mind tipped, splitting his mind in half?
Your boy's gonna be alright, Gordon. Lie. Like I lied.
And topping off our list is the Enchantress transformation, an ancient and interdimensional mystical being who possessed the body of June Moon. Too curious for her own good is a phrase all too applicable to Dr. June Moon. While exploring the Tres Osos caves in Peru, Dr. Moon's possessed by the ancient Enchantress's spirit. Before being possessed, June appears to be a sweet and kind woman, intelligent and interested in the past of ancient cultures. Her personality is starkly at odds with the evil interdimensional entity. This makes her constantly worried about the intentions of the Enchantress and tries her best to control the spirit. Despite being possessed and played around by a malevolent spirit, June retains her good consciousness. This goes to show that although she seems weak at the hands of the Enchantress, she's fighting a raging internal battle with the spirit trying to stop her from taking control. Despite having access to limitless powers, June Moon instead opts to die rather than be a vessel for some destructive extra-dimensional entity. Take that, Deacon Frost. They say some people are born heroes, while some are made heroes. But in the case of villains, most are just made villains. Well, except for the elves. And about my superhero movie transformations playlist, and let me know if you've missed any that you thought deserved to be on this list. Also, like, share, and subscribe to the channel, and I'll be back with a fantabulously fabulous video soon on your very own channel, the TV Regent.